You ever hear a knock that didn't sound right? Not loud because someone's hurt, not polite like a neighbor just needing sugar, but aggressive. Like the kind that says, I own you, even if I don't. That's the knock I heard that Saturday morning, standing outside my barn, coffee still hot in my hand, dogs still sniffing at the porch wood, a clear Texas sky overhead, nothing out of place. Until that knock hit the metal gate like a sledgehammer on old nerves. The kind you earn after 35 years in law enforcement. I wasn't wearing a badge that morning. Just boots, jeans, and a t-shirt stained with yesterday's dust. To most folks out here, I'm Tom Walker, or Chief if they still remember. Retired mostly. Bought this ranch 15 years ago to escape HOA committees and city councils who thought they knew better than landowners. Horses grazing. Rescue dogs barking at their own shadows. I built peace with my own hands, acre by acre. So when that man in a navy shirt, combat boots, and dollar store sunglasses started stomping up my gravel road, alone, no cruiser, no backup, my gut already knew he's not real. But you don't react to gut instinct like a rookie. You wait, you watch, and you let a fool hang himself with his own rope. I slipped behind the barn wall and tapped into the security feed from the tack room. 6 cameras, high resolution, motion, triggered. That's the thing about getting older. You get smarter. The man was pacing near the gate now, checking his fake baton like it was some kind of magic wand, belt loaded with gear he had no idea how to use. Then he shouted, "Open up. HOA enforcement. You're in violation." My ranch that doesn't even have an HOA. Never did. Never will. That word alone, enforcement, burned something in me. Not because I felt threatened. Hell no. But because I know exactly what happens when authority is faked. I've seen it ruin people. I've seen it kill people. So I smiled. Big mistake, buddy. Because I'm not just a man with a ranch. I'm not just an old cop with a faded badge tucked away in a drawer. I'm the sitting chief of police for this entire county. And this guy just knocked on the wrong damn gate. I didn't run out yelling. That's not my way. I remotely unlocked the gate, smooth, no noise, and let him think he'd won something. His boots crunched forward 10 steps onto my land. He looked around like a predator sizing up prey, only he didn't know he was the one being hunted. I stepped out from behind the barn, arms crossed, calm as a lake on a windless morning. You picked the wrong ranch. I didn't need to shout. Didn't need to flex. Just 4 words, and his face drained pale like he'd seen a ghost. My face has been on county posters, campaign flyers, even the local news. Ain't no mistaking it. And when you're wearing a fake badge, the last face you want to see is the real law. Mind showing me some ID? I asked, soft and polite. He hesitated, reached for his belt. Big mistake number 2. Because behind him, silent as dusk, my deputy's truck rolled in. No sirens, no warning, just presence. 2 deputies stepped out, hands near holsters, not drawn, but ready. The man froze. Then he panicked. "I know my rights," he shouted, fumbling in his pocket for something. I'll be honest, I thought it was a weapon. But before he could run, he bolted straight into my backup truck like a cartoon fool. Deputies grabbed him before he could say another word. And just like that, the morning calm was gone, replaced by something colder, something older. Because as we went through his belongings, no ID, just phony hoe papers with fake seals, a plastic baton, toy radio, and a badge he probably bought online, it became clear this wasn't some lone idiot. This was a setup, a scam. Organized. You know what pisses me off the most? Not the attempt to scam me. Not even the disrespect to the badge. It's that this kind of thing works, especially on folks like you and me. Men who built lives from the dirt up, who didn't grow up Googling HOA regulations or reading fine print in a lawyer's office. We trust what we see. And when someone shows up in uniform, barking laws, a lot of good men open their doors out of habit, and then they pay fines they don't owe. Or worse, get threatened into compliance. I bought this ranch for peace, but peace ain't passive. It's protected. And when I saw the map in that faker's waistband with red circles drawn around my ranch, Brian's land, Carol's house, even homes 5 miles off, and scribbled across the top, target, non-compliant, something shifted. This was no prank. This was a system. And whoever ran it, they didn't expect resistance. They didn't expect someone who knew the law and enforced it for decades. I called in state support, activated the drone unit. And just as the rotors took off into the air, my phone buzzed. It was Brian, whispering. Scared. Tom, there's another one. Outside my barn. Dressed just like that first guy. That was it. This wasn't a one-off. This was phase one, and the line had been crossed. So listen to me now, especially you, older fellas with land and pride and a long-earned sense of freedom. If a man in a badge shows up talking HOA compliance and you never signed anything, you slam the door. You call your sheriff. You ask for badge numbers. You never comply out of fear. You built your land, your home, your peace. No one gets to walk in and fake their way into authority over it. That morning, I thought I'd just be feeding the dogs. And instead, I found myself walking into a war no one warned us about. One fought not with guns, but with paperwork, costumes, and fake laws designed to look just real enough to make you doubt yourself. But you know better, and so do I. So if they ever knock on your gate, don't just open it. Ask questions. Demand truth. And if they can't give it, shut that gate, lock it, and let the real law take it from there. Because next time they might pick your ranch. And I hope to God they pick the wrong one again. You know that feeling when something dark is coming, even if no one says it out loud? That sense that the quiet isn't peace anymore, it's warning. That's how it felt the moment Brian whispered through the phone that another fake officer was walking around his barn. I could hear it in his voice, the tension, the disbelief. This wasn't just a random knock on my gate anymore. This was coordinated, systematic, and now it was spreading. That morning, while the first imposter was sweating in the back seat of a patrol cruiser on my ranch, the real game had already moved east. Brian, my closest neighbor, lives about a half-mile through thick mesquite brush. Retired firefighter, bad back, and a heart too good for the world. He's one of those men who still believes in handshakes and keeps his boots by the door, just in case. I'd helped him install a security camera system after Carol had her scare last month. Never thought we'd actually use it. I jumped into my SUV, barked into the radio for Unit 6 to shift toward Brian's sector. No sirens, total silence. Jamal, my deputy with a linebacker's build and scout's patience, peeled off into the dust ahead of me. I pulled up Brian's feed from the surveillance on my in-dash system. There he was, another faker. Bigger than the first one, same uniform style, navy shirt, boots, a patch that read Green Valley HOA Enforcement. Only this one carried a clipboard with a mounted tablet and spoke into a Bluetooth headset like he was on a mission from the Pentagon. The bastard was circling Brian's barn, taking pictures of solar panels and muttering into his mic. But the part that made my blood run cold, he was acting like he belonged there. Like this was standard operating procedure. Like we were the ones who needed to explain ourselves. Brian stayed hidden in his attic, watching from a dusty old window. Smart man. I radioed Jamal and Rachel, told them this wasn't random. This was a damn pattern. While the fake cop at my ranch was still handcuffed and begging for water, we had another trespasser at Brian's with digital gear, scripted lines, and the arrogance of someone who thought the law couldn't touch him. When I arrived, Jamal was already in place, creeping through the woods on the south side. I flanked from the opposite end, moving slow and low through a break in the fence line. The faker was focused on Brian's new rainwater system, angling his phone for close-ups like he was collecting evidence. I waited for the right second. Then I stepped out and said just loud enough, "Step away from the barn. Hands where I can see them." He froze, then turned. And what did he do? He laughed. "I'm just performing an inspection. he said, smooth as oil. Your neighbor is in violation of Green Valley HOA policy on structure modifications and external elevations. That line stuck in my head. Structure modifications, external elevations. Sounded like bureaucratic vomit, but he said it like it meant something. I held up my badge. Green Valley HOA doesn't have jurisdiction here, I said. This is unincorporated land, private property. You're trespassing. Identify yourself. His eyes narrowed. He reached into his vest too quickly. My sidearm was out before he even blinked. Don't, I said. Slowly. Hands out, palms open. He smirked and tossed a business card onto the dirt. Call my supervisor, he said like it was all a game. Jamal came from behind and had him in cuffs before the guy finished his sentence. The faker fought back, briefly. But Jamal's not the kind of man you wrestle with. He got him down fast. No bruises, just control. What we found in that man's bag changed everything. A thick black binder, printed fake bylaws, list of addresses with check boxes marked visited, paid, or escalate. He carried fake citations, HOA violations ranging from $500 to over $3,000, each with forged signatures and barcode-style QR codes that linked to a scam payment portal. But the real gut punch? Forged signatures from real homeowners we knew. Folks like Carol, folks like me. That wasn't ambition. That was criminal infrastructure. Organized fraud. Institutional intimidation. We drove him back to the station, booked him in a separate holding room. Rachel took his gear apart, found a second device with access logs, photo timestamps, route tracking software. These guys had schedules. They had plans. I stayed late, going over evidence. Couldn't sleep. Around 3:15 a.m., my phone buzzed. It was Carol. She was trembling. Chief, she said, I found something taped to my back door. I told her to stay inside, lock the doors, and send me a picture. The message almost made me drop my coffee. A red envelope. Inside, a printed note in bold capital letters, comply or be condemned. Final warning. I was out the door in seconds, deputies already dispatched. At Carol's, we found camera footage of two hooded figures walking the perimeter. No uniforms this time, just gloves, masks, and flashlights. They didn't try to enter. They wanted to be seen. They looked into her cameras, smiled. This wasn't enforcement. This was psychological warfare. I activated a full task force, brought in digital analysts, contacted the state ag. By daybreak, we had surveillance around the county scanning for patterns. That afternoon, Rachel walked into my office pale-faced, holding a printed file. Chief, she said, your property just got flagged for non-payment on HOA compliance fees. I laughed at first, thought it was another forged letter. But this one had county records attached. Real ones. It listed my legal name, property deed, square footage, tax ID, all correct. And yet, it claimed I owed $38,000 in backdated HOA fees under a contract signed 3 years ago. Problem is, I never signed anything. And the notary? A known alias from one of the fake IDs we'd already collected. Someone had accessed protected government records. They weren't just posing. They were inside. That changed everything. We launched a cyber forensics probe. Rachel tracked the breach to a set of spoofed login credentials linked to the Department of Planning and Development. That department, 2 floors above us, we had a mole, or someone bought one. That evening, while I stood in the parking lot watching the sun sink behind the hills, another vehicle pulled up. Black SUV, unmarked but clean. 3 people stepped out. All wore the same Navy uniforms. 1 woman, 2 men. They weren't hiding. They had a camera crew. One man held a megaphone and shouted, "We're here to issue a violation to the chief of police for non-compliance with community standards. This is now public record." I didn't move, just stared. Rachel stood next to me, hand resting on her hip. "This is a performance," I said. "They're filming a damn spectacle." A few pedestrians nearby had pulled out phones. Some clapped. That's when I realized the horror. This wasn't just fraud. This was a movement. Before I could say anything, one of them raised what looked like a badge. Only it wasn't. It was a taser. And he fired it straight at Rachel. Thank God she dodged. The prong slammed into a patrol car behind her and sparked off the metal. That's all the warning I needed. In 2 steps, I tackled the taser wielder to the pavement. Rachel had her weapon drawn, covering the others. Jamal and backup deputies rushed in and disarmed the remaining suspects. What we found on them? More fake IDs, more citations, and a tablet. On that tablet, live feeds, dozens of them. Private homes, bedrooms, garages. They'd installed unauthorized cameras on properties all over the county. This wasn't impersonation anymore. This was surveillance, extortion, psychological targeting. In every home flagged, someone elderly, someone vulnerable, someone who wouldn't fight back. But they didn't count on me. They didn't count on Carol. They didn't count on old men like Brian, who'd served their communities longer than these fakes had been alive. That night, after locking them up, I sat in my office alone. I pulled out a map. I marked every incident, every target, and I made a promise. They'd knocked on the wrong gate. Now I was coming for theirs. I didn't sleep that night. The kind of rage that burns quiet, steady, and cold was rolling through my chest like thunder behind closed skies. You ever felt that? Not loud anger, not screaming, but something deeper, like a warning bell ringing in your bones. I sat alone in my office until the sky turned pale gray, coffee long gone cold, surveillance footage looping silently on the monitor in front of me. What we discovered wasn't just bold, it was sick. Hidden cameras on dozens of properties, falsified citations, planted documents, breached county systems. It wasn't a prank or a rogue scam. It was coordinated, calculated, and now it had a name. The Community Shield Program, a friendly-sounding title for something rotten to its core. We interrogated the female suspect, Sierra James, and after 6 hours of silence, she finally cracked. Not out of guilt, out of arrogance. She thought she was winning. We're restoring order, she said. We're helping neighborhoods take control. I leaned back in the chair across from her, arms crossed, and didn't blink. You're stalking widows and planting spy cams in barns, I said. Don't dress it up like patriotism. She didn't flinch. That's when she said the name that made the room go silent. Denton. Ray Denton. A man I hadn't thought about in nearly a decade. A real estate manipulator with a reputation for ghost companies and vanished investor funds. He'd slipped through the cracks of 3 counties before disappearing entirely. Until now. I left that room with something new in my gut. This wasn't about money anymore. This was a grudge. Personal. Denton knew who I was. He tangled with our office years ago when he tried to steamroll a land dispute case, and we blocked it. Looks like he'd been nursing that wound ever since. Only now he was back, not just with new schemes, but with followers, uniforms, a damn blueprint. He wasn't just running a scam, he was building an army. The next morning, Carol called. Her voice was shaking again. Chief, she said, I found something. I drove straight to her property. This time there was no envelope. No knock on the door. Just a black box lodged under her back porch camera. Motion sensor. Infrared lens. No serial number. Someone had installed it in the dead of night. I examined it, gloves on. Professional. Not some garage-built nonsense. This had money behind it. And coordination. I looked up at the wide stretch of Carol's land, her old red barn, the flag that hung above her porch. She deserved better. We all did. And Denton had just crossed another line. We escalated the investigation to a federal cybercrime unit in Dallas. Rachel worked around the clock, pale as paper, hands trembling from too much caffeine and not enough sleep. At 10:43 a.m., she broke through an encrypted server linked to a spoofed county domain. What we found floored us. Over 3,000 names, personal property files, vulnerabilities, income levels, family data, legal status, meticulously organized. And across the top of the spreadsheet, Phase 2, activation. This wasn't a side hustle. This was a full-blown digital invasion. Their next step? Denton's crew planned to sue the courthouse. Using a shell organization called Civic Order Coalition, they'd filed a civil lawsuit claiming the county had violated community enforcement rights by rejecting HOA registrations. It was a legal trap. If accepted by the court, it could freeze property titles across the county and force a review of deeds. If that happened, Denton could slip in forged contracts and claim compliance violations retroactively. I stared at the filing. It had my name on it. Carol's, Brian's, even the children's shelter. It wasn't just fraud. It was an attempted, hostile takeover. I checked out of the station and drove to Brian's ranch. I needed air. I needed truth. Box in his hand. Found this under the gutter, he said. Another spy cam. No markings. No ID. Just secrets. We sat in his kitchen, coffee between us, silent for a while. They're trying to own us, he said finally. With paperwork. I nodded. In fear. He looked at me hard. You gonna stop them? No, I said. We're all gonna stop them. The next morning, we received an invitation. Denton was hosting a community compliance rally at an abandoned mall outside town. Public. Flashy. Uniforms, cameras, flyers, banners. He was putting on a show, but I knew better. It was a recruitment event. He wasn't just scamming anymore. He was building a movement. So we went in undercover. Rachel ran ops from a surveillance van outside. Jamal posed as a security applicant. Brian played the role of a disgruntled homeowner with violation complaints. I dressed like a rancher ready to sign up. No uniform, just flannel, a brimmed hat, and a whole lot of quiet fury. We entered at dusk. The mall smelled of dust and old despair. Dozens of people had gathered, some curious, some convinced, most confused. Denton stood on a stage under flickering lights, wearing a custom-made badge and a voice like a preacher. "We are the Guardians," he shouted, "the ones restoring order to forgotten towns and unsafe roads." People clapped. Cameras rolled. But when he pointed to a screen showing images of non-compliant properties, my ranch, Carol's barn, the shelter, I had enough. Now, I whispered into the mic. Doors burst open. Deputies swept in. FBI in full gear. Screams echoed. Some ran, some froze. Denton. He smiled. "You're too late, Chief," he said as I cuffed him. "The files are out. The revolution's begun." I nearly lost it, but I kept my hand steady. "This isn't a revolution," I said. "It's a scam. And you just got caught." But then, just as we turned him toward the van, one of his followers lunged from the crowd and swung a steel baton at my head. I heard the crack before I felt the pain. Then nothing. I woke up in a hospital bed to beeping monitors and Rachel's worried face. "You're alive," she said. "Skull fracture. Minor. No bleed. Concussion." My ribs ached. My vision blurred. But I sat up anyway. "Denton?" "In custody," she said. "But, Chief, the data. He sent it out. We don't know where." And she handed me an envelope. Inside was a flash drive. And a note. "You stopped the rally, not the revolution." I stared at it, cold sweat running down my spine. This wasn't over. Not even close. I looked out the hospital window. Somewhere, someone was reading those files, was then planning the next move. I whispered to myself, "You picked the wrong county," and I meant it. I checked myself out of that hospital before the sun had a chance to dry up the dew on the courthouse lawn. I could still hear Rachel's voice trailing behind me, telling me I needed rest, a scan, something with wires and machines to keep me still. But I've never been much for sitting still, not when I know there's a fight out there that needs finishing. My head throbbed, my ribs ached like hell, but the weight in my chest wasn't from pain, it was the memory stick. Denton's final spit in the face. You stopped the rally, not the revolution. That note burned hotter than any wound on my body. And I wasn't about to let a man like that rewrite the rules for good people like Carol or Brian or the hundreds of others who still didn't even know they were on a hit list. Back at the station, Rachel had her sleeves rolled up, her hair in a messier bun than usual, eyes red from hours of staring at code. We found something, she said the second I walked through the door. Encrypted drives, uploaded from Denton's shell server just before his arrest. We cracked them. There's more. She clicked open a file on her screen and turned it toward me. I saw rows of names, columns of flagged properties, cross-referenced with voting records, zoning appeals, even health records. They're not just targeting by geography anymore, she said. They're targeting by vulnerability. Elderly, isolated, low legal defense, even trauma flags, recent widowhood, financial hardship. It's like a predator's shopping list. I had to grip the edge of her desk to keep steady. Where's it going? I asked. Anywhere. Everywhere, she replied. We traced packets to Arizona, Florida, Ohio. It's spreading, Chief. And get this, same HOA playbook, new name, United Neighborhood Guardians, but it's Denton's exact structure. I called a meeting in the operations room. Jamal, Carol, Brian, Rachel, a few deputies. We shut the blinds and locked the door. They've gone national, I told them. Denton franchised his fraud. New names, same tactics. And they're using the same vulnerabilities. Paperwork, fear, confusion. Only now, they're running it like a religion. We've got a window, maybe 72 hours, before these new groups lock in fake lawsuits and drain folks dry. Carol, bless her spine of steel, spoke up. Then we do what we've always done. We organize. She pulled out a thick stack of folders. Brian and I have been knocking on doors, talking to victims. 62 people have agreed to testify. Some never even knew they were targeted until we showed them their names in Denton's files. Brian, standing behind her with a mug in one hand and a Ziploc of muffins in the other, grinned. We've got affidavits. Eyewitness statements. A class action team forming. Jamal chuckled. Old school rebellion, he said. Door-to-door truth. I looked around the room. These weren't just my neighbors anymore. They were my resistance. We started moving fast. Rachel coordinated with cybercrime units in 3 states. Jamal reached out to the Attorney General's office. We uploaded Denton's fake HOA manual to a public site, flagged every signature, every barcode, every scam tactic. We issued a PSA, bold, no nonsense, warning homeowners how to spot fakes, how to document violations, how to fight back. The phone started ringing off the hook. People scared, confused, angry. And I told every single one the same thing. You're not alone. They picked the wrong town. The courthouse trial was set for Friday. But this wasn't just Denton on the docket. It was the whole rotten skeleton of his network. 22 indictments across 5 counties, charges ranging from fraud to impersonation to unlawful surveillance to digital terrorism. And still, something in my gut twisted. Denton wasn't the type to go down clean. That's when Rachel burst into my office again, face pale. Chief, she said, the shelter. The children's shelter. It's on fire. I was out of my chair before the words finished echoing. Jamal's voice crackled through the radio as I jumped into my cruiser. Molotovs, Chief. 3 of them. Back fence. You got volunteers pulling animals out. No casualties yet. But they knew the cameras were blind in that corner. They hit us where we weren't looking. I floored it. When I arrived, the smell of burnt hay and melting plastic hit me in the face like a betrayal. Cages scattered, kids crying, dogs howling, flames licking the sky like orange ghosts. I grabbed a hose and joined the line, heart pounding. This wasn't just scare tactics anymore. It was escalation. It was terrorism. We doubled security, deployed drones, scrambled the cyber team. That night, we uncovered one final critical document on Denton's flash drive. It was a blueprint, a court strategy, the final play. Denton had filed a civil suit not just against homeowners, but against the courthouse itself. Under a bogus coalition name, they were trying to freeze all land records, force title reviews, and backdate HOA compliance fees. If the court accepted the suit, every deed in our county would be in limbo. People couldn't sell, couldn't borrow, couldn't inherit. It was a paper noose. And the hearing was scheduled for Monday morning, quiet, no press, just a file in the system that would have changed lives before anyone noticed. I knew what we had to do. We had to beat them at their own game. The next morning, I stood at the town hall gymnasium, mic in hand, facing over 400 residents. We played videos from the flash drive. We showed real citations versus fake ones. We explained how the forgery worked, how the intimidation started, and how the digital breach had poisoned even county records. I looked each of them in the eyes and said, "This isn't about an HOA. It's about the soul of a community. If someone can fake a document and steal your home with it, that's not bureaucracy. That's war. And we're not surrendering." The crowd erupted. Carol handed out copies of verified documents. Brian passed around sign-up sheets for the Watchdog group. Rachel showed parents how to protect their property records online. That night, I sat back in my office as the clock ticked toward midnight. I thought of the people who called me chief, not because I wore a badge, but because they trusted I'd fight for them. That's what leadership means. Not a title, not a chair, a promise. And as long as I'm breathing, no scam, no fake badge, no wolf in HOA clothing is going to break that promise. Then, just before I turned off the light, Rachel appeared one more time, holding a printed report. "Chief," she said quietly, "you should see this." I took the paper. Top headline, HOA coup attempt foiled in Texas, but similar network forming in Arizona. I looked up at her. She didn't flinch. "It's spreading," she said. I nodded. "Then we go again." And I meant it. This isn't over. Not by a long shot. But they better be ready. Because next time they knock on someone's gate, we'll be there. And we won't be asking politely. The morning sun hadn't cleared the horizon yet, and already my boots were on the ground. The courthouse steps still carried the echoes of our last victory, but peace in this fight lasted about as long as a cup of coffee left out in the wind. Arizona wasn't just a rumor anymore. Elaine Trace, Denton's old partner in crime, had surfaced with a new scam under a different name, United Neighborhood Guardians. Same blueprint, same lies, different badge. Only now, Denton's playbook had been replicated, franchised like some twisted business model for fraud. I stared at the map Rachel had pinned to our board. Dots. Red ones. Each marking a property hit, a town shaken, a home flagged as non-compliant. It wasn't just Arizona. Clusters were forming in Alabama, Pennsylvania, even a spot up in Oregon. This wasn't a scam anymore. It was a movement, and if we didn't shut it down now, it would root itself deep like rot in old wood. Rachel had pulled the email logs Denton had sent just before his arrest. Encrypted files, shared with Elaine. Templates, scripts, even fake legal memos designed to fool county clerks and property assessors. We also had confirmation from cyber forensics Elaine had mirrored Denton's entire operation. Same tactics, fake notices, digital document tampering, even an app that let her inspectors scan properties and file fake HOA citations. What really made my stomach turn was a short list Rachel pulled off the metadata from one of Elaine's planning documents. It wasn't just about money. It was about control. The list targeted elderly homeowners, disabled vets, widows, small churches, community gardens, anyone seen as vulnerable or isolated, people who wouldn't fight back. Or so they thought. We made our move before they did. Jamal coordinated with the state AG's office while Rachel worked with Homeland Cyber to freeze the main server Elaine's crew had been using. Carol and Brian? They were out knocking on doors again, this time helping folks draft affidavits, scan their property records for tampering, and join the now growing HOA Victims Alliance. I swear, if either of them ever ran for office, I'd retire and run their campaign. But this wasn't politics. This was war. And in war, you prepare. That Friday, we received word that Elaine was planning a public event, another compliance rally, just like Denton's, but hers would be at a shuttered strip mall outside Phoenix. I made a call to an old friend at the Arizona Bureau. We agreed to run it the same way we did Denton's rally. Undercover, wired, and loaded with facts. Rachel would monitor from a mobile van rigged with digital trackers. Jamal would play security applicant. I went in as a retired landowner looking to bring order to his community. Brian, God bless that stubborn man, volunteered again, this time posing as a disgruntled former member of Elaine's made-up HOA. The moment we walked into that building, I felt the same chill I did before Denton's rally. Same crowd energy, same blind cheers. Same slogans printed on glossy banners promising restoration of American values and protection from government overreach. But make no mistake, this wasn't patriotism. This was piracy dressed up in red, white, and blue. Elaine stepped up to the stage in a tailored Navy uniform with a seal stitched across her chest that read Neighborhood Order Division. She wasn't just running a scam. She was selling legitimacy. Around her stood officers with clipboards, earpieces, body cams. Fake authority with real teeth. She began her speech with syrup. "We're here because we care," she said. "Because the government forgot about us. Because our neighborhoods need leadership, not paperwork." The crowd applauded. She clicked a button and a slide appeared behind her. Photos of properties with red stamps across them, non-compliant. Some were real homes. I recognized one, a disabled man's trailer outside Mesa. I clenched my jaw. Jamal whispered in my earpiece, "This one's worse than Denton." "She believes it." I nodded. That's what made her dangerous. After the speeches came the real work. Recruiters mingled with the crowd, handing out forms, scanning QR codes that led to digital membership contracts. We collected them all. Jamal even got a recorded pitch from a recruiter explaining how members could earn commission by filing reports on their neighbors. Snitches. Monetized surveillance. Rachel's voice came through. "Got the IP logs. She's syncing to Denton's original database. Same backdoor portals. We've got them." "Ready when you are, Chief." I gave the signal. Within seconds, state agents swept in. Full tactical. Loud, clear, and final. Panic erupted. People scattered. But Elaine didn't run. She just stared at me as I walked up, arms crossed, like she expected a different kind of justice. "You think this ends with me?" she asked. "You think people don't want order?" I stared at her, not blinking. "People want to be safe, not scammed." She smirked as the cuffs clicked on. Then why did they cheer? I didn't have an answer for that. Not yet. Back in Texas, the fallout was immediate. Dozens of affiliate networks collapsed overnight. Rachel uploaded the full digital archive we had gathered, scanned documents, videos, fake bylaws, proof of fraud, to a public portal. News stations picked it up within hours. Calls flooded the tip lines. Former victims, concerned homeowners, even real HOA managers who were being impersonated and blamed. That night, we received confirmation that federal indictments were being expanded. Over 60 individuals across 6 states now face charges, Elaine included. I stood again on the courthouse steps. This time, not as the lone voice of warning, but surrounded by a coalition. Local leaders, state investigators, community organizers. Brian held up a sign that read, "This land ain't for scamming." Carol laughed and added, "And neither are we." I looked out at the crowd, gray hair, suntanned faces, calloused hands, proud hearts. They weren't just witnesses. They were guardians now of truth, of land, of each other. And just when I thought we had turned the tide, Rachel rushed over with her phone. Chief, you need to see this, she said. A new video was circulating. Not from Denton, not from Elaine, from a third group. New name, new state, same blueprint. I took the phone, watched the opening frame. Another man in a uniform that wasn't real, holding a badge that wasn't legal, speaking with a voice that sounded way too familiar. We're here to restore order, he said to the camera. HOA by the people, for the people. I handed the phone back, heart pounding not with fear, but with fury. I turned to the crowd. They're not done, but neither are we. And just like that, the resistance grew again. Stronger, smarter, more connected. We had seen the playbook. We had lived through the fire. And now we were ready, because when they come knocking with fake badges and false authority, they'll find one thing waiting, a gate that doesn't open to cowards, only to truth. And that gate still stands, just like we do.